Good morning. I'm going to pick up right where Mr. Davis left off, but before I do, I want to review general adaptation syndrome because that's a really important one. As I mentioned to my classes, and Mr. Davis was talking about that last part with exhaustion. If you have ever gotten sick right at the very beginning of winter break, you were probably in the exhaustion phase. So you were at resistance and you were too high. Your stress was too high. So really what you want during the resistance phase is you want to successfully resist stress. You do that through diet, through exercise, through sleep, and things like that. Because successful resistance, you see, you go down. You go back to normal. Unsuccessful resistance, you're just eating poorly, you're not sleeping well, it's going down, 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 and then you get to the illness or even worse. So, take care of yourself. Now we're going to talk about two theories of stress response, and it's kind of interesting because this is gendered. I'm not saying that it's the way it should be or that it's the way that necessarily physically we need to respond, but it does seem to be the way that men and women handle stress differently. So the first one is fight or flight. What happens is stress happens, your hands get cold. And by the way, I'm wearing my jacket because the boiler is off here and it's freezing here at LC. So your hands get cold, your stomach hurts, the blood is rushing from all the little small parts of your body to the big parts of your body so that you can punch or run. So it's going to your legs or it's going to your shoulders and your biceps. So that can be one response, and that is a typically male response. Females tend to have a different response, and some males do too. And we can always decide to respond differently. And what they find is this, for most of the modern stresses that we see in the world, this is the response that actually is better. It's called tend and befriend. And that means, so what do you do if you're stressed out and you use the fight or flight? You get angry or you withdraw. So you fight with somebody, I mean, not physically necessarily, but mentally, and you flee, you cocoon. Neither of those are very helpful. The tend and befriend, you take care. To tend, it's like tending a garden. And to befriend, you know what that is. So the idea is, should you reach out? Should you go to coffee? Should you take a walk with somebody else? Or should you fight or flee? Obviously, the tend and befriend is the better stress response. It is the healthier stress response. It is a stress response that more women than men tend to use. And it's one that you should think of adopting a little bit. And then there's a YouTube video here. It's a long one. It's by Kelly McGonigal. It's a 15-minute TED Talk. It's probably too long for us to have during class. Maybe we can post it. But the TED Talk is basically making stress your friend. And we've talked earlier about, is stress a challenge or a threat? And you get to decide whether stress is a challenge or a threat. If it's a challenge to be overcome, that's something you move toward. If it's a threat, it's something you move away from. So think about how you manage stress. Tend and befriend is a good way to think about it, and think about a challenge that needs to be overcome, making stress your friend. Kelly McGonigal, TED Talk on stress. If you want to search it, you should be able to find it. Speaking of unhealthy responses, the type A personality. Some psychologists decided they were going to split personalities into two types, type A and type L. Just kidding. Type A and type B. Type A is intense, competitive, perfectionistic. You are the go personality. You have to win. You are constantly striving to achieve. And that tends to lead to very bad. When we got to that stage 3, that exhaustion phase, that's what it does to your body. That type A personality. Now, I'm not saying that achieving things or being successful makes you type A. But if you can't slow down, if you are always competitive, if you're always trying to have the most money, to get to the top of everything that you do, that is stressful on your body. That leads to heart disease. It leads to all kinds of physical problems that will lead to bad outcomes in the long run. Then you've got your type B personality. Type B, if you've ever seen The Big Lebowski, he's just chill, man. A surfer dude. It's like, you know what? I'm not worried about it. Now, that's not to say that type B personalities can't be successful. They're just really relaxed when it comes to things like, you know, if I get the promotion, great. If I don't get the promotion, that's fine too. I'm going to study hard for the test, and if I get a B or a C, I did my best, and I'm cool with that. And then type A is like, oh, I missed a point, I missed a point, I missed a point. You know, that's the kind of thing that you got to kind of start thinking about. Can you make yourself a little bit more of a type B personality? Because those type A's, those hard drivers are the ones, you know what? They have those bad physical outcomes. I want to show you a video. There's a link here, and I can't show it here because it doesn't play the audio, but this is a great one. I'm going to give you well, first of all, here's what they did with learned helplessness. And this is terrible, they could never do that today, but they would take a dog and they would kind of chain it down so it couldn't move. I mean, it could move. It was just on. It couldn't get to this next area. And they would deliver it electric shocks. Not to hurt it, not to, you know, make it long-term damage, but it was not comfortable. And the dog couldn't flee the electric shocks. Then they took away the barrier for the electric shock. So as soon as he was shocked, he could move to the next area, but he wouldn't do it. And he wouldn't do it because he had learned that he was helpless. Even though all he had to do was move to this next area, he had been chained there for so long, he didn't even try. Think of all the areas in your life that you have learned helplessness. You have failed enough times that you won't even try. The success, all you have to do is reach out and grab it, and you can't get it. That is learned helplessness. So you have to overcome learned helplessness. When it comes to learned helplessness, math, I probably could be good at it, but I learned I can't do it. What you need to have instead is resilience or grit. You need to keep trying. I know it's hard, but when you think of learned helplessness, you have to think, it's not that you're not good at it, it's that you've learned that you shouldn't even try. And think of all the things in your life that you've learned you shouldn't even try. That is learned helplessness, and you want to get away from that. Be resilient. Keep trying. Don't worry about failure. Fail, that stupid thing you've seen on the board, but I like it. Fail stands for first attempt in learning. Failure is not final. It's not. And you will overcome learned helplessness when you remember that. And that's a podcast that we're not going to listen to. And this is the last slide. I know we're at a little over 7 minutes, but this is the last slide. If you play video games, if you have a hobby or a sport or something that you do that you lose track of time, that is what's called a flow state. And by the way, I did learn how to pronounce this last name. This last name is pronounced Csikszentmihalyi. He wrote a book called Flow. I have a copy in my classroom. It's wonderful, and it's about trying to find the thing that you can get lost in. It's a perfect challenge for you. It's not too easy, because if it's too easy, it's boring. It's not too hard. If it's too hard, you quit. Find that spot. That is really what we're looking for in life, is that flow state, because you don't even have to motivate yourself to do it. It's like, think of the fun thing that you do that you find the flow state. Do you have to say, oh no, I have to play video games? Of course not. So think about trying to enter that flow state, and you will be in good shape. And now, with 8 minutes and 12 seconds gone, we have finished chapter 8. Thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you at the start of the next unit.